When was the last time you got to experience Genesis, the very beginning of something, using an original iPhone, watching the first episode of The Simpsons, playing with an original PlayStation? It's not often that we get to experience the very first of a product that is still around today, but that's exactly what I'm going to be doing, spending time with the Genesis of one of my very favorite automotive lineages, and it's sitting right over there. It's this, the E28 generation BMW M5, the very first M5. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing three things: why I feel the M5 is the only M car that has stuck to its original roots, why I feel these things are undervalued and shouldn't be, and then we're going to find out what this thing is like to drive. And with that, let's get started. Before we get going though, big surprise, this M5 is currently for sale, being auctioned live on, of course, Cars and Bids, and it's a very special one. Although it has a lot of miles on it, this car has recently been refreshed. It has a reupholstered interior, the paint has been corrected, a lot of service work has been done, meaning that this is a classic that you can go out and enjoy. And if you've been in the market for an E28 M5 after you finish watching this video, click the link in the description below where you can head to the live auction of this one, where you can bid on it and buy it, only on Cars and Bids. So then, why do I feel the M5 is the M car that has stayed the closest to its roots? In order to answer that question, we first have to talk about the M5's history and where it came from. Although this is the first M5, it's not the first 5 Series that the Motorsport division breathed on. That honor goes to the E12 M535i. But that car had an M30 6-cylinder engine, a normal BMW power plant. It had a lot of cool touches, but it really wasn't a true M car built under the M brand. From there, BMW would do the same thing with the E28 M535i. Again, same sort of thing, built on the same assembly line as the normal 5 Series, and it got special and cool touches, but it wasn't a true M car. But with this, BMW gave M the right to turn the 5 Series into an Autobahn barnstormer. And here it is, the S38 6-cylinder engine. Now, for the European model, it would get a different engine, the M88, but both of these derive from the M1's 6-cylinder engine, but they have some slight differences. The main differences are the connecting rods, the pistons, and of course, wet sump lubrication for this versus dry sump found in the M1. Regardless, BMW basically said, let's take our most motorsport-focused engine and just put it in the 5 Series. That was their approach at the time to build this car, and it was seen as crazy in period. The biggest difference between these two engines has to do with the catalytic converters. The European models do not have them, and the US models do, meaning that the US models are down slightly on horsepower at 256 horsepower versus about 280 found in the European ones. But this solution of taking the biggest, most powerful engine they had, the most motorsports-driven power plant they had, and putting it into a 5 Series is kind of crazy. But BMW M is known for putting insane engines in the M5. The S85 V10, for instance, the S62 V8 when it came out was crazy, and today the car has over 1,000 horsepower. Basically, BMW is allowed to go nuts with this car, putting whatever crazy engine they want inside of it, and well, that all started here with the E28. Another thing that makes this M5 an M5 is its styling. Now, of course, today it stands out quite a bit with its very boxy, purposeful design, but at the time, you really had to know that this was the performance model. It had a couple of M badges throughout, nothing crazy, one on the front and one on the back, but ultimately, you had to know that the M5 meant business. And today, that's kind of the same. Although the new M5 is certainly more flamboyant in its styling than this thing was, ultimately, the difference between a normal 5 Series and that isn't that crazy. There are subtle things you need to know to look for, and it has the aura of performance, but it's not necessarily in your face, and that's always been the M5 ethos. Every single generation has been exactly like that, and again, it all started here. Stepping inside the M5, it also combines a lot of what you would find in a modern M5 in the form of technology and build quality. For instance, technology-wise, this car had fully electrically adjustable front seats with controls even for the headrest to go up and down electronically. Now, while that doesn't seem like a big deal today, in the 1980s, luxuries like that were pretty cool, and that was something you would definitely show off, and it was cutting edge. Another cool piece of tech in this car is its onboard computer, located to the right of the gauge cluster. It allows you to calculate things like your average speed or your fuel economy, things like that that really were luxuries at the time. Computers were just starting starting to make their way into cars, and to have one in this one in the 1980s was pretty cool and pretty cutting edge. Moving on to the topic of build quality, this interior is so nice. The seller was telling me that some of it was reupholstered, some of it just reconditioned, but it is wonderful. And there's leather everywhere. There's leather on the center console. You can see these beautiful stitch lines. There's leather on the glove box. This is nice, again, stitch line. Just all looks great and feels very nice. And I would imagine this is pretty much how the car felt when it was new. And it certainly is a step up from a lot of cars from the 1980s, including those in BMW's own catalog. And speaking on the M5's lineage, all M5s feel that way. They're the highest end version of the 5 Series, and so they have the nicest stuff. They feel more like a 7 Series in that regard, and they have always felt that way, as this car clearly exhibits. One of the other great judgments of quality this car has is the way the doors open and close. They sound so nice and feel so good. Take a listen. But the tech and build quality aren't the only things that make this M5 an M5. One other element that's very subtle, but you notice if you look closely, is that everything faces the driver. All M5s are about the driver and the driving experience. And so everything, including the center console, is just tilted a little bit away from the passengers and more towards the driver. So you can focus on being comfortable, going fast, and maintaining control over everything in the car. And that actually brings me to my biggest point about why I feel the M5 is the most true to its lineage. And that is because the M5's purpose is to go fast on the Autobahn and have fun. These cars aren't built to be ultra high precision handling cars. They do handle well, but ultimately this car is most at home on the highway, cruising at big speed, going really fast in the left lane, overtaking. That is what it is built to do. And all M5s since then have been exactly that. They're designed to be high-speed, barnstorming Autobahn bruisers. Now the M3, of course, is a wonderful car, but the M3 today is a 4-door sedan. It started off as a 2-door coupe, and that was kind of the M3's ethos. It was lightweight, high revving, ultra high performance. Today it's more about torque, and it's a sedan, and if you want a 2-door version, well, you don't even get an M3, you get an M4. And so it's really not true to that lineage as much as you might believe. The M6 doesn't exist anymore at all. We got the E24 and then we got the E63/4 after that. But there's no M6. It was replaced by the M8. And well, that's not an M6. It's a completely different car altogether. And so the M5 is still around. And I feel that although the current generation M5 is very hefty, it still is about going fast and achieving big speeds and being very comfortable and smothered in build quality and a lot of technology, and that is what the M5 has always been about. Moving on from my hot take of the M5 is the only true M car, we now have to talk about why I feel that these cars are tremendously undervalued. And we're going to talk about its two contemporaries from its era from the same manufacturer, the E30 M3 and the E24 M6. We're going to begin by discussing production numbers, and I really am focused mostly on North American production here. With the M5, BMW said that they were going to produce about 500 examples of this car during its production run. They ended up making closer to 1,200 examples of this car, which at the time really upset owners. So much so that they actually sued BMW, and BMW settled by giving them a voucher toward the purchase of their next BMW product. However, this car is still relatively rare. Compared to the E24 M6, BMW produced over 1,700 examples of that car for the US market, and compared to the M3, BMW produced over 5,300 examples of that car for the US market, making the E28 M5 the rarest of its M contemporaries. With the production numbers in context, we now have to talk about sales from today. What are these cars valued at now? And the sales data over the last year is very interesting. E24 M6s have an average sale price of about $47,000, with a high sale price for the best one of $100,000. E30 M3s have an average sale price of about $74,000, with the high sale price of $307,000. But the E28 M5 has an average sale price of $52,000, with a high sale price for the best one of $89,500, making it kind of the least valued compared to its 1980s M contemporaries. Now, I feel this is pretty unjust, as the E28 M5 gave birth to the super sedan. It gave birth to the M5 lineage. That said, when you do think of the quintessential 1980s M car, It's the E30 M3 with its boxy fenders, its great look, its screaming S14 engine. That is what you think of when you think of a 1980s M car. The M6 as well is a beautiful car, so beautiful it's got its nickname, the Shark Nose. But the E28, well, it just kind of looks like a refrigerator on wheels. It doesn't really scream performance, and it's not particularly showy. But again, that's what M5s do. They don't really shout about their existence. They are subtle cars that you have to know are the performance version. Now, everybody knows that I love the M5, but even so, objectively, I think these cars do deserve to be prized more than they actually are. But I'm not concerned with sales data so much right now. All I really want to do is get behind that wheel and find out how this thing drives. Okay, time to drive the E28 M5. Now, I've wanted to drive this car forever to finally finish having all M5s under my belt. It's the one that I've been waiting to do the longest because they are very hard to find in anything resembling stock and or good condition. And this one seems to do both. The gold wheels are definitely, add some visual flair to it, but truly this car presents pretty stock, and it has some minor modifications, but nothing too serious. So let's get going, go around this roundabout. We can open the taps a little bit and see what the S38 has to deliver. Oh, that's a classic M engine. Oh, silky smooth 6-cylinder power, and it just goes down the road. It's got decent power. It doesn't sound like that much. Maybe 250 horsepower is, not that crazy, or 256 isn't that nuts, but it feels pretty good. It's a reminder that cars from this era are actually, quite light, especially by modern M5 and modern day comparisons. But it feels surprisingly nimble. It just kind of wants to get up and go. It certainly doesn't have the Vanos second wind. There's no adjustment to the cams. They just kind of are what they are, and you get on it and you just go. But it's very smooth, and it feels like a classic BMW. The other thing that shocks me right away is how much glass there is in this car. Visibility is so good in this thing. You can see everything, and that's very nice. It's, again, not a surprise against traditional cars of this era, but this thing just feels so small. The windshield feels so dramatically upright, but it's a nice greenhouse. It's a nice place to be, and it certainly gives you very good visibility into everything that's around you and what's going on. It's a very usable classic in that regard. The gear change is also quite nice, pretty long throw. That's what I've always read about these cars. As Chris Harris said, paint with your shoulder. That is kind of how it feels. You kind of row back and forth through the gears. It's definitely not, it's not the tightest of changes. It's not the snick. It's definitely more this kind of thing. But again, it's appropriate for the era that this car is from. There's no question about that. But let's get on the highway. Like I mentioned, what all M5s are supposed to be the best at is being the Autobahn bombers. They're just built for high speed cruising and be very comfortable. That said, this on-ramp is a little tight and twisty, and I feel like I can kind of just keep going. Its car is really nicely balanced. I'm coming up on traffic a little bit faster than I was expecting, honestly. But now we're getting on the open highway in an E28 M5. My God, if I saw this, I would lose my mind as a BMW nerd. But immediately, what I feel about the car is it feels really capable. Get it into fifth gear and just kind of cruise. All M5s have great road holding. It's just what they're for. People like to modify them and slide them around, and that's really not the purpose of the M5. If you wanted something that was sharp handling and kind of tossable and fun, you get an M3 or an M2. I think the M2 is more like M3s of old than the M3 actually is. Which again, that's why I feel that the M5 is still kind of exactly like this. This car feels like it's built to just munch miles, and I'm going modern highway speeds, no real problems. It's a very sedate driving experience. It's very comfortable. You just feel like you have control. I mean, this is what an M5 is supposed to be. and it feels awesome. It feels really good. A great highway cruiser that's fun enough. It gives you the engagement of a manual transmission in this case. And in this car, it's the case of the E28, you know, it feels like a classic. You can see where BMW was going to go from this. When it feels similar to the E34 in a lot of ways. The E34 felt a little bit more modern, and the E39 is where things really started to shift with the introduction of the S62 V8 and all that stuff. But the idea of putting a big engine in a relatively normal car is so cool, and now we're kind of just used to it, but it started here. I mean, this car is just awesome for it. We'll go down a gear, go down one more, and let's see what it does. Man, no drama. It just goes. This car just moves. It's definitely not as fast as the M5s that came after, but you can tell it is one, and I think that is just the coolest thing. And again, I think these are criminally underrated. They deserve to be worth more. I suspect they won't always be this inexpensive. You know, interest in the new timers, the modern classics has continually increased, partially thanks to, you know, sites like ours. But I think that people just remember reading about this car when it came out. They're of that age where they have disposable income. I think these will, although I don't want to be like a speculator because I'm a car enthusiast at the end of the day, I suspect they will continue to go up in value over time. But it's a lovely driving experience, I have to say. I really am smitten with this car. I'm so glad I got to check it off my list. It's fun to come back to Genesis and just see what the hell BMW was thinking in the 1980s. And what they were thinking was big engine, and let's make it happen. And they gave us the M5. Oh, what a special, special automobile. I just love it. And that is the E28 generation BMW M5. It is so cool to have experienced exactly where the M5 came from. And, well, the recipe isn't that different today. Huge engine up front, luxurious interior, the amenities you need, all built for outright performance. And if you've been in the market for an E28 M5, well, you can buy this one on Cars and Bids. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Goodbye.